Thank you for joining us for the Wildfire Commons webinar series. We're excited today to give a short update on the status of the Shrubwise Data Challenge, which it's awesome to see folks that are actively participating and have helped with the challenge in the room with us. We're just going to give it one more minute as our waiting room slows down. And I know we might have some folks popping in and out because we're catching a few of you in between classes. But my name is Claire Sturm, and I'm a project manager and community lead for the Wildfire Commons. And we have been excited for the Shrubwise Data Challenge, which we started earlier this year and have continued through the spring. And really looking forward to the results that our teams are preparing as they go through the modules for a final module example that we're looking forward to at the end of April. And what you can expect from us today is Pedro and myself will be talking a little bit through the core challenge, what the goals are, and then going into the modules that we've released so far, and the two modules that are upcoming and some expectations there. So it looks like we have a quorum, so we'll get started. Pedro, if you want to take us to the next agenda. So again, just what to expect today, give a little bit of background around the schedule and timing of the challenge. Pedro will then give us a recap of modules 1 and 2, and these are the active work that we see happening within the challenge to really prepare teams for the final module that they'll be evaluated on. We'll then be talking through Sprint 3, which is upcoming, and the final module and next steps, and any questions that folks have, we're happy to help answer during today's session. So for the data challenge itself, what we're recognizing is that most of our shrubland spaces that are found within our Southern California region often don't have shrubs identified through clear labeling from our available models and methods today. We have wonderful research teams that are out in the field, collecting this data that's really going to continue to enhance this space. But currently, our higher canopy fuels are covering a lot of the underground shrub fuels that we would like to identify, especially for practitioners for prescribed burns and modeling wildfire behavior. So our goal with this challenge is to use a machine learning exercise in order to do this shrub evaluation. And when we think of shrubs, these are low-lying woody vegetation, and they're typically essential drivers for our fire behavior fuels. So they're the ones that catch first and then relate to the other fuels in the area. It is of great importance for our Southern California shrub-dominated area, especially all of those in San Diego can relate here. And we need this for spatial arrangement of our shrubs to play a critical fuel dependency on how fires spread in our models. So our traditional models, which are typically 2D, are focused on forest ecosystems, again, where there's a higher canopy. And we have some ignorance around the fuels and shrubs that are in the lower canopy area. And newer fire models, especially 3D, allows us to play into more readily take on our account of shrubs, but we still need that higher resolution for 3D vegetation inputs in order to do the better identification of our shrubs, with especially an opportunity here for machine learning labels. And so with that, hopefully you have a core background on the challenge, and I'll pass it over to Pedro to kind of take us into where the goal is and where we're moving forward with this challenge.
All right. Thank you very much, Claire, for that introduction. So, as Claire mentioned, the main challenge of this data challenge, the main goal is to achieve a good shrub distribution and representation at a high spatial resolution that can be used as better inputs for file modeling. And the way to achieve that is through a machine learning pipeline that accurately characterizes these shrub ecosystems. So this is an example of AI workflow that the people could follow to achieve this. This is a recap of some information that we previously provided on the January 22nd webinar, but I'm gonna quickly go over it again. So an example of a pipeline would be to start by getting some target training labels by defining the target output, then preparing the training data by curating the different inputs from different data sources and validating the quality and the alignment of all these data sources. Then by developing a machine learning and AI model that takes all of these curated data sets and iterates over different features, architectures, hyperparameters, all of these with the goal of improving the target metrics for the target label. And finally, applying this model and creating a new data product that is a good representation of shrubs and is ready for sharing, for analysis, for visualization, and for its use of its practical use on the on fire modeling. So what are the phases that we are suggesting for the challenge and that we are trying to achieve with our participants so they get the right context and they get to the final goal of developing this modeling? We started with an onboarding phase in which we introduced them to Fireforge, our main data discovery and working platform. And we also provided materials so they could get themselves familiar with the Jupyter Hub service, how to deploy modules in this Jupyter Hub service, and how to work collaboratively in the Jupyter Hub. Then we are going through different introductory data through these modules so people get context around the data sources that exist. We are aware that not all of our participants might have a background in fire modeling or working with vegetation data. So we are trying to give them enough context so by the moment in which they get to the final problem, they have a better understanding of what we're trying to achieve and what exists previously. Then we are also providing an introduction to the different relevant data products that we hope that you use in your pipeline. And finally, we will get to the point in which you will be able to have a properly documented end-to-end machine learning pipeline that properly characterizes shrubs. And so this is the schedule in which we are working. On January 22nd, we have our first release, the release of the onboarding module, which has no submission purposes. Its only purpose is to get the people familiar with our Jupyter Hub and with the platform. On February 1st, we made a first release, the release of the Spring One. March 5th, we did the second release. On next Thursday, we will be doing the third release. And for those who attended the January 22nd webinar, might notice a slight change in the timeline here. We had originally mentioned that the plan was to release both the Spring 3 and Spring 4 on March 19. We had a slight delay on a data product for March for the Sprint 4, so that's why we are pushing the release 1 week. But there are no plans to push that release any further. You will still have 3 weeks and a half to work on that sprint, which is the final sprint and involves the main submission for this data challenge. So we believe that it's more than enough to have time to work on that on that module. So this is a quick recap, a visual recap of the timeline. January 22nd, we officially launched the challenge with the onboarding module. By February 19th, we initially encouraged people to register prior to this date because this was the date for the um, for the release of the first sprint. March 5th, we had the second release. March 3rd, we are planning to do our third release. In between these 2 dates, March 26th, as mentioned in the previous slide, we are doing our fourth and final release with all the details of the tasks to complete. April 5th, we are encouraging people, highly encouraging people those who are in this webinar and have not registered, to please register prior to this date. So you have at least 2 weeks to work on all the modules and to, most importantly, complete the final submission. And April 19 at 10 p.m. Pacific time is the submission due. And our team will be announcing the winners on May 1st. So these are the provided data sets that we have gone through and we plan to go through over the modules. We are going over the 10 meter and 30 meter resolution data products from the rangeland analysis platform. This was on Spring 1. Spring 1, we also covered 3D aerial LiDAR data and in terrestrial laser scanning data. On the Spring 2, we started to cover the NAPE imagery data. And on the following sprints, we will be covering Burn Pro 3D climate action seed grant field data. This is human collected data on the fields with some shrubs characteristics and the NASA work data product. Okay, but any team that has additional data sources or that identifies external data products that could be relevant to achieve better results in their pipeline are encouraged to use those data products as long as these are open source and these are fully documented on your final submission. And for those who are new, who haven't registered, we highly, highly encourage you to go through the Wildfire Commons documentation to get themselves familiar with the platform, familiar with the different features that are available, and most importantly, to complete the onboarding module, which is the very, very first module that we released and is still posted on the data challenge. So they can, as mentioned previously, get themselves familiar with the Jupyter Hub and get themselves familiar of what we mean by a module and how to properly set up these modules in the platform. A quick recap of the sprints. Sprint 1, which was released on February 19, we covered the Rangeland application platform demo and we covered ALS and TLS just so they participants could get themselves familiar with the shrubs, the current approaches for shrub representation, and also introduce people to ALS and TLS as these will be extensively used during the challenge. On the second sprint, we went through 3DEP, which is one of the main sources of ALS, and to the NAPE imagery data. On a sprint 3, we are planning to release a module around how to generate shrub lists from terrestrial laser scanning. And this will be a key module for people to go through to understand what are some of the current approaches to get these shrubs representation, and most importantly, to identify the potential limitations of these approaches. And on the final sprint, we will be releasing two modules. One of them describing a pipeline to get shrub labels from these shrub lists and combining them to other data products. And most importantly, we'll release a blank module called workflow development, in which we are going to detail what we expect in each team's submissions and how to submit this work to us prior to April 19. So again, the deadlines, all the materials have to be submitted prior to April 19, 10 p.m. Pacific time. The modules 1 to 3, I can confirm to you these are not extensive. These are simple tasks. The main goal of this is to provide context to participants, but we expect you to deliver the task notebooks that are attached to these modules. And also by this date, by April 19, we expect you to deliver the final submission according to the criteria that we publish on the final module. And also for all the participants, if you need any assistance to complete modules 1 through 3, you can schedule office hours. These are the dates and the times in which we are providing office hours. So far, we have gone from February 20 to through April 3rd. No, April 6th. What day is it? April 6th on office hours. We still have April 13, April 20, sorry, March 13, March 20, April 3rd, and April 10th as dates to register office hours, and also April 17th. Sorry. Okay, so again, it's still not too late to register for the data challenge. If you're interested in working in the challenge, in going through this process, please do as soon as possible. Go to Wildfire Commons, register, go through the documentation, and you will find all the steps there to seamlessly register to the platform. Please do it using your university domain ID. If you are not affiliated to a university, please register an OrcID account and register using that OrcID. And anyone can participate. This is an open challenge for people in academia, people in industry, people in government agencies, people who are interested in going through this process and working on these data and getting helping us in getting better shrubs representations. And very important, no participant can be part of more than one team. Okay. So with this said, I will get back to you, Claire.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pedro. And I think what we have a goal of today is really hearing from you all. So I know this challenge is an open opportunity for a lot of folks that are in the room. We want to hear your questions, especially those that are interested in launching a team, being able to get started with the data challenge. Any questions that you have, even if you've joined the challenge already and been able to go through our modules 1 and 2, if you have questions there, we're always happy to answer them. And if you have a question, feel free to pop it into the chat.
Also, I'm gonna put in the chat my email in case anyone has, as they start to work with these materials, if anyone has any question or faces any potential blocker, you can always email me and I can provide assistance to help you go through the materials.
Mhm. Thank you, Pedro. Maybe as a show of hands, is anybody coming from UCSD on this call? Any students that have joined us? I know I recognize one. Thank you, Andrew. Well, if you're a student joining us, and if you're coming especially from, more of a data science background, this is definitely one of an opportunity to learn practical data directly. All of these modules that we've set up in these sprints, they are informative. So we're designing these so you can learn about what the data actually is, what it means, and how to execute it in an effective way. So if you come in with a data science background, you are perfectly aligned to participate in this challenge and really hope you find it as an opportunity. And Joshua, great to see you. Um, so knowing that the details haven't been given out for the final challenge, can you give us any details about the extent of the shrub area of interest? For example, is it um, concerned with the chaparral? So Pedro, do you want to share a little bit more about the plots that we're going to be um, supporting and providing so that way
Mhm.
folks can go through the ML pipeline?
Mhm. Yeah, we will be providing 8 plot areas. Maybe not all of them will be given for training. We might reserve some of them for our evaluation of the pipeline. The extension of these plot areas, Leticia, I see you that you're in the call. Can you help me a little bit with remind me what is the extension of the plots that we're working with, the shape files?
Yeah, so I think um, all of the shape files are available in the data sets. Is that right, Pedro? And
Yeah, that is
they're-
right. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, they're not very large spatial areas. They kind of vary between, I would say like 20 to maybe like 100 to 200 acres.
Okay.
So that's not like a super large extent.
Yeah, because these are areas that are aligned with the sites for which we have terrestrial laser scanning and for which we are generating generating this shrub list, and that also match some of the sites for which we have previously have human collected data. I don't really know if it is says if concerned with Chaparral. I'm not actually familiar where Chaparral is located, so.
Yeah, some of
Mhm.
the sites have chaparral.
Ah, okay, okay. Mhm. Does that answer your question, Joshua?
Yeah, it does. I was just typing in a follow-up too. Sorry. No, it
Okay.
does totally. That helps a lot. I guess the other question I just typed in there, are there any details in the shrub variables which would be mapping? So I mean, like I know shrub position potentially or something, but I mean, are there like cover height, stuff like that, or is there I don't know. I was just curious about that as well.
It's gonna be so all the details on the expected metrics, yeah, are gonna be detailed on the final submission.
Okay.
So yeah, the main goal is to achieve a proper shrub detection from data sources that can be considered more scalable than the current approaches. And that will be a plus for sure to be able to identify shrub cover, the specific location of the shrubbery. It will be our main target, but height cover might be some of the information that we also might ask during the but I cannot bring all the details right now.
Great. Thanks for that explanation. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And I will point out too, we're going to have a couple of options for shrub labeling that folks will be able to explore, because we know and recognize this is a real challenge to have improved labeling. This is the goal of coming together as a community, as a learning opportunity to better identify shrubs, especially in these plot points. So we're going to give you a couple of examples. Feel free to, analyze them, explore them, and be creative about what ways we can improve, especially known data that you have or creative thoughts for programming towards improving this labeling list and point identification. And one other thing that might be a little question back of your minds that might be percolating. What's the opportunity for the team that comes in with a really creative solution? So as Pedro mentioned, we're going to have some judging happening and announce the winning team on May 1st. The opportunity for that winning team will be to work with our team at the Societal Computing and Innovation Lab at UC San Diego to identify the solution and be able to map it towards a more formal publication for the community to share out. And then we'll be supporting that team to attend a scientific conference to be able to present their good work, present what they learned from the data challenge, and be able to have conversations and working opportunities as well with other professionals in the field. So for those that are students, especially in this space, we encourage you to form a team, join the challenge. It's a great opportunity to learn about this work, have real impact towards a societal challenge, and be able to extend your network with real support towards research. So would love to have your participation. Any other questions? Joshua?
Yeah, I can ask another question. Sure, why not? So, I mean, you said freely available data sets. I mean, so if they're open source, they just have to be the data sets have to be published then, or so that anyone could access them, or we could use, or do they have to be in such a way that you could connect to them via script, or I mean, what is there any? Excuse me, is there any details about that in terms of I mean, they can
Yeah,
be obviously they have to be released, but do they have to be like you can put them into a workflow, or how does that? What's the? I just want to get a little more information about that.
yeah, so the idea on that point is that we don't want to limit teams on using the data sources that we are providing. If you happen to discover or your team has another data source that is open for use and that can be adapted to the pipeline, we encourage you to include it as long as the data set or the data source is accessible and it's properly included in the pipeline. So as part of the final submission, we are asking people to give us reproducible code. And so when we execute this code, if it connects to your data source has to be properly exposed, either by sharing that source during the final submission or providing the access credentials to that source. But it's very important that it's, as I mentioned, properly included in the pipeline, that people don't have to do any extra uh, registration or that is some source that is for restricted use. It has to be open source, it has to be properly documented, and it has to be properly included inside of the reproducible pipeline.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Excellent. All right. Well, greatly appreciate everyone's time today. We look forward to your contributions in the data challenge, and feel free to take a look at documentation for some support. But if you have questions and would like just a live walkthrough on anything, reach out to us through office hours, and we look forward to your submission on April 19th.